the stories people have whispered about for decades. The abduction accounts, the military whistleblowers, the contactees who never back down are all describing the same handful of visitors over and over again. In modern ufology, patterns emerge. Different witnesses who've never met, living in different countries and different decades, keep describing the same 5 archetypal beings: small gray technicians, tall radiant human-looking guides, cold reptilian overseers, pale military adjacent, tall whites, and the strange insectoid intelligences that seem to outrank even them. When you map the testimonies, government leaks, FOIA documents, crash retrieval rumors, and contactee literature, you don't get chaos, you get a rough taxonomy. So in this video, we're going to dive into the 5 most talked about alien races that people say are hanging out on Earth. We're just going to stick to what's buzzing around online, what folks are saying in UFO research, and all those wild abduction stories from over the years. We'll look at what they look like, how they interact with us, who says where they're from, whether they're viewed as benevolent or malevolent, and what their likely long-term agenda with humanity might be, especially in light of what many in the disclosure community believe is a slow-motion acclimatization program. If even a portion of these thousands of accounts are accurate, then humanity has already entered into contact. Alright guys, let's talk about the Greys. Those little aliens from Zeta Reticuli. You know the ones, right? They're like the classic alien you see in movies. Big heads, big eyes, and kinda creepy vibes. Across abduction literature, from Betty and Barney Hill in 1961 to the wave of cases in the 1980s and 1990s, the most consistently described beings are the so-called Greys, 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall, thin bodies, grayish skin, spindly arms, small or no visible ears, and the iconic large, black wraparound eyes. In many accounts, they move in groups, communicate telepathically, and show little overt emotion. They are often described as operating in sterile, clinical environments, sometimes aboard disc-shaped craft, and sometimes alongside taller versions of themselves, sometimes called tall Greys, who appear to supervise procedures. In terms of activity, the Greys are most associated with missing time, medical examinations, reproductive or genetic procedures, the implantation of small devices, and the presentation of hybrid or childlike beings. A large strand of internet-circulating material and UFO research claims they originate from the Zeta Reticuli star system, an attribution popularized after the Hill case map interpretation, and that their biology may be weakened or partially cloned, prompting interest in human genetics. In some narratives, they are not acting alone, but are part of an interstellar consortium or working with elements of human black projects. Are they benevolent or malevolent? Reports vary. Many abductees describe them as cold, task-oriented, even frightening, but not sadistic. The vibe is, we have a job to do. Common interpretations often frame their long-term intention as the stabilization of their own species via hybridization, the study of human emotional capacity, and the preparation of humans for open contact. A smaller but persistent thread says some Greys may be bioengineered workers of a higher race, which would explain their lack of emotion and repetitive behavior. In that view, their relationship with humanity is transactional. We supply what they need: genetics, emotional data, environmental samples, and in return, we are slowly upgraded, monitored, and readied. Let's talk about the Pleiadians, or Nordics now. So, the second most talked about group out there, especially by folks who've had experiences since the 50s, are these tall, human-looking beings. You might have heard them called Nordics or Pleiadians. Pretty intriguing, right? These are typically described as beautiful, 6 to 7 feet tall, with fair or golden hair, light eyes, and a peaceful, almost luminescent presence. Witnesses describe them wearing form-fitting suits, sometimes white or metallic, and radiating calm. Their appearance is so close to ours that many accounts suggest they could walk among us undetected. Unlike the Greys, Nordics are most often linked to voluntary contact, telepathic lessons, warnings about nuclear weapons, environmental destruction, or spiritual evolution. Sources on the internet and traditional contactee literature often suggest this group's origins are linked to the Pleiades star cluster, as well as higher dimensional lineages such as Venusian or Lyran. These beings are said to observe humanity's development, expressing concern about our aggression and the use of advanced technology without adequate spiritual maturity. The Nordics or Pleiadians are often viewed as benevolent beings. Their long-term goal appears to be guiding humanity toward a galactic community, but only after we navigate critical challenges such as global conflict, environmental degradation, and the misuse of artificial intelligence. Some narratives say they have clashed with less benevolent groups over control or influence of Earth, and that limited cooperation exists between them and select human governments or military insiders who are sympathetic to their message. Their ideal relationship with us appears to be mentorship, not domination. Now, let's discuss the Reptilians, also known as the Draco. The Reptilians are a controversial race often discussed online. They are described as tall, ranging from 7 to 9 feet, muscular, and possessing scaled or leathery skin in shades of green, brown, or tan. Their eyes have vertical slit pupils, and some accounts mention a ridged skull. In more negative portrayals, they are depicted as having a menacing and predatory presence. Reptilians differ from clinical Greys and serene Nordics in that they are often characterized by a strong personality, established hierarchy, and territorial instincts. Reports frequently describe them wearing armor-like clothing or regal insignias, particularly among the Royal Draco variants. Reptilians are frequently linked to underground bases and military encounters, particularly in cases of coercive abduction. Online testimonies and whistleblower claims often associate them with control systems on Earth, including interference in human politics, energy harvesting, and manipulation of fear. The Alpha Draconis is often cited as the origin of this species, along with other stars in the Draco constellation. Some sources suggest they are an ancient spacefaring race that predates modern humanity and may have existed on Earth in ancient times. In internet UFO lore, these entities are often seen as malevolent or self-serving. Their long-term goal is perceived not as uplifting humanity, but rather as managing, exploiting, or integrating us into a larger imperial framework. This could involve seeking resources, genetics, or metaphysical concepts, such as loosh, that are discussed in some esoteric circles. Within some online circles, some minority claims exist regarding renegade or honor-bound reptoid factions that acknowledge humanity's right to progress. However, if the reptilian narrative holds true, these factions maintain the most adversarial relationship with humans, likely driving government secrecy. Let's head over to the Tall Whites. The Tall Whites are described in accounts from former USAF Airman Charles Hall and subsequent online narratives. These beings range from 6 to 8 feet in height, possess very pale or chalky white skin, have thin features, and exhibit large blue or pinkish eyes, often with slightly elongated faces. Their clothing is typically tight and vibrant, while their technology is advanced, sleek, and surpasses current human capabilities. Notably, they are frequently reported near human military installations, contributing to the extensive online discussions about them. Tall Whites are associated more with managed contact than random civilian abductions. They engage in controlled interactions near military bases, negotiate access to facilities, and occasionally approach humans under supervision. Reports indicate they are protective of their young, conscious of their social hierarchy, and strict about following protocols. Their origin is often unclear, but online sources suggest they are long-range travelers either passing through or temporarily stationed here, possibly from a distant star system that requires regular resupply. In internet UFO lore, their moral alignment is typically neutral to conditionally friendly. They can be courteous and helpful, but only within strict guidelines. They expect humans to acknowledge their seniority and security. Their long-term intention appears to be more logistical than ideological. The Earth may simply serve as a useful stopover. The repeated presence of these entities near military operations indicates some level of government awareness or limited collaboration. Their relationship with humanity appears to be pragmatic. We offer a secure environment for their activities, while they provide technology, insights, or potential diplomatic ties. Alright guys, so here we go. Last, but definitely not least, we gotta talk about mantids, or as I like to call them, the insect superheroes. They're pretty wild, right? So, let's dive into it. One of the more unusual yet frequently reported types of abduction cases involves the mantids or insectoids. Witness accounts describe them as very tall, often between 7 to 9 feet, slender but strong, with a head resembling that of a mantis. They have large, wraparound, or multifaceted eyes, long arms, and occasionally exhibit a greenish or brownish exoskeleton appearance. Mantids differ from greys in their roles and presence. While greys may seem like workers, mantids are viewed as authorities. They often take charge in a room, observing and overseeing medical procedures performed by greys. Their demeanor exudes a strong, intelligent consciousness. Mantid beings are frequently mentioned in abduction or contact experiences that initially involve greys. Many individuals report that the mantid typically appears later in these encounters to evaluate the situation, communicate telepathically, or convey a message. These messages may pertain to ecological issues, spiritual matters, or the human role in upcoming programs. Researchers often view these beings as higher up in the extraterrestrial hierarchy. They frequently appear in mixed crews with greys and mantids, and occasionally with tall greys. These beings may be involved in directing hybrid or consciousness experiments. Mantids are often characterized as elevated, yet enigmatic beings. Unlike some reptilian narratives, they are not typically depicted as cruel, but their priorities do not align with human comfort. Online interpretations often claim their goal is to foster a hybrid or multi-species future that combines human emotion, gray adaptability, and mantid oversight. This suggests that their long-term relationship with humanity may be one of supervision. They act as gardeners of emerging species, monitoring the progress of a planet, moving toward broader contact. So, in the whole disclosure and UFO scene, there are these 5 alien races that keep popping up, right? It's like they're the main players in the game. Now, not everyone's on the same page about all the details, but over the years, you'll notice these 5 keep coming back in reports, books, talks, and even those wild internet videos that go viral. It's kinda wild, don't you think? Believers argue that the repetition of similar accounts from unrelated individuals suggests a reality beyond mere fantasy. Many describe the same types, craft interiors, and hierarchical behaviors. This perspective implies that governments may be facing multiple visiting entities with differing interests, which explains the secrecy, compartmentalization, and gradual public acknowledgement of these phenomena. When discussing the narrative on They Are Watching Us, you are not merely listing aliens. You are describing a complex ecosystem of non-human intelligences surrounding Earth. This includes healers, mentors, scientists, geneticists, empire builders, opportunists, travelers, and overseers. Proponents of this view argue that contact has already been made. The focus shifts from, "Are we alone?" to "Which groups will we collaborate with, and under what conditions?" Once again, thank you for tuning in to They Are Watching Us. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting down below. I appreciate all the love. See you next time, my friends. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're as into UFOs and all that cool disclosure stuff as I am, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. It really helps me keep the good content coming your way on this super fascinating topic. Seriously, I appreciate it so much. Catch you later.